Hi everybody, HCM 1143. This is Chapter 12. Chapter 12 is all about costs in healthcare and their reasons for being higher than most people think they should be. If you remember a few chapters back, we learned that the United States pays more in administrative costs than any other country in the world, mostly because we have a multi-payer system and it takes a professional to fish out how to be reimbursed for all the health care that happens in the United States. But there are a plethora of other reasons. Some of those reasons are population-based. Our population is aging. We have a great deal of people. Those baby boomers are getting up there in age. As a matter of fact, if this won't cook your noodle a little bit, Tina Turner and Mick Jagger are now of the age that they might be seeking long-term care. It's going to be a different world in demographics, but we have a great deal of people who are of that age, and the elderly consume the most medical services of any group. So as you have an aging population, you have a growing need for health care. There's other reasons why costs are so high, and one of them would also be fraud and abuse. Now, as you're looking through your book, some of these different frauds, you might not even ever have considered that somebody could do this, to fraud, Medicare fraud and ghost beds and upcoding, so that you're actually paid more for either healthcare that doesn't happen or exaggerated. And so those also raise medical costs. One reason, particularly in Oklahoma, you will hear a whole lot about is malpractice suits. If you are not in a metropolitan center in Oklahoma, you will probably notice that there's a big shortage of obstetricians in rural areas in Oklahoma. And that goes a lot back to their insurance rates, which took a huge jump a few years ago, and it sent a lot of different obstetricians into retirement or into a metropolitan area where they can share costs with the doctors. So all of those are factors, and as you look through this book, this is where I really want you to consider why when people say they ought to do something, how impossible it is for a Band-Aid fix to reduce costs in healthcare. One of the major reasons why healthcare costs cannot be fixed with a magic wand is because every different provider has the ability to shift their own costs. There's a hospital system could just start charging more. Doctors can start charging more. You can have somebody down the street who drops their prices to gain more of the market. And again, you are not in an imperfect market in healthcare. We are not talking about a time where people shop for the best healthcare that's out there. They deal with what is immediately accessible at the time that is absolutely needed. And so you have controls that are driving up the cost of healthcare. You have supply controls, you have demand controls. So you might have a time where you can't access enough technology to take care of the demand that is needed, and that is going to increase the cost of healthcare. There are so many different reasons. So I want you to start to put those reasons together and realize that this is a jigsaw puzzle, not a straight line. And that is the reason why it's going to be very hard for one fix to create harmony and lower the costs. And remember again that all of these segments of healthcare are regulated independently. There's not one healthcare board that can make a straight line decision and affect all of healthcare. Doctors have their own licensure. They have their own professionalism boards. They have all that. So do nurses, etc. But there's not one that's encompassing all of them. So you have to get everybody on the same page. And when you do that, you can change the world. People have been trying for a long time. Hasn't happened yet. So all of those things are really important as you look through this chapter. Also, not just cost is affected here, but also access is affected here. When you need health care, can you get it? Can you actually make it into creating that change? And can you do it geographically? Can you do it financially? All those are different things. Okay, so that is your chapter for access and quality. One more thing. When it comes to healthcare, the least expensive healthcare you can get is the highest quality healthcare you can get. What I mean by that is if you have a shoddy surgery and 3 surgeries are needed to repair damage that was done, that's way more expensive than a surgery that was the highest quality surgery. And that pretty much translates through all of healthcare. Medicare has put in a great deal of price controls to control rehospitalization. That would be hospitalization after an initial hospitalization for the exact same thing because the problem wasn't initially dealt with. Remember, you always have to deal with iatrogenic illnesses, illnesses that are caused by the action of healthcare, and those are very, very damaging to cost. Whenever you get a disease you didn't have before because you sought help with a different disease, that can be very damaging. We're going to move on now, so I'll see you next chapter.